Okay, folks, so today we'll discuss operations of cache. Basically, how do we write and read? Okay, and also we will study some aspect of multi-level cache. Okay, all right. So let's start. Okay. So last class we have studied concept of how do we structure the cache. So we started with direct map cache. This is one-way cache. Then we moved on to two-way cache. This is not really direct. Okay, direct mapped two-way cache is actually we can say it's not really direct map, but it is set associative. Then we have set associative four-way map. Okay, and then so we have. Please go through this structure. Okay, of cache organization. So we have four-way cache. This is so this diagram is different from what we have studied earlier, but you can see these are each set. Okay, these are zero set, first set, second, third, and so you can see that there are 256 sets. Okay, and each set will have four blocks. Okay, block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4, and each block has a tag bits and a validity bit. Okay, and rest of the diagram is same. So you look at this is the address that come from program or address space or your LW. You want to read a memory location, right? And then this is what you have here is that gives you tag. So this is 22 bits are tag, and this is index, and based on that you can calculate the cache size, right? Cache size is, is nothing but number of blocks, number of sets. So there are 250 sets, and the number of ways, four-way, or within a set there are four blocks, so number of blocks, and each block is having 8 bytes. So you can find out all this from this structuring, right? The address. Okay, and of course main memory size is 2 raised power 32. This you can find out using by knowing what is the width of this address that's given to you. Okay, so please remember this way of calculation. uh, okay, and then we have moved into 8-way set associative cache. Okay, and then this essentially fully associative cache. Okay, and then again here you can find out what is going to be cache size, etc., etc. So there is, note that there is a I have used little different uh, notations here. See, we say there are 4 lines. Okay, so we call this as a line. Okay, so as I said, when we put block, there is a block of data which is nothing but data, plus we have tag bit, plus we have validity bit. We put all together and call this a line. Some authors call it line, but we can call this also as a block which contains data plus tag plus v. So it totally depends on how people really, what terminology people use. And then the cache size become number of set, and e is number of e is associativity, basically number of blocks per set, and how many bytes are there in each block. Okay, so this is the way we calculate the cache size. All right, so all right, so this is why another way of this notation that we have used in terms of e. So this is a way we represent the general cache as S, E, and B. S is number of sets. So this is 0th set, first set, second set, and so on. Okay. And then each set, this is a set. Each set has number of lines. Okay, it's a 0th line, sorry, 0th line, and so on. Okay. So each line has a structure like this. We have bytes. Okay, that's actually data. The number of bytes it will represent, and then the tag bit and v bit. So that's very simple, right? That's just nomenclature is different, and different authors use it differently. Okay, so go through this terminology. It's nothing. I mean, how do we calculate number of blocks and so on, right? Number of sets, etc. Given certain values. So this will be important when you, if I give you a numerical question and ask you to calculate, associativity or number of sets, etc. So you can easily calculate using this. Okay, all right. So this was what we discussed yesterday, and today we'll discuss how do we read from memory, how do we write into memory, what are techniques, what is a cache structure, and what are the cache replacement policies, and then we'll look at in brief about the multi-level caches. Okay, reading from memory or reading from cache, we can say. Processor issues a request, some address that it wants to read, and then here is a some structure of memory, which will have of course cache and also will have, let's assume main memory directly, not multi-level of caches. This is cache. Okay, so this address is given using say load word, some address. So this address is issued by processor or data path, and then there is a possibility that this address is available in the cache. Note that cache is almost million times 10,000 or 1,000 to million times smaller than the main memory. So and while hit ratio we design in such way is more than 90%. So if it's available here, this address is available in the cache, then we call it cache hit. It means the cache holds a valid copy of the block and it returns the desired data. Okay, if it is not, this address is not there, it means the block corresponding to this address is not there in cache. It means that cache miss is there. In that case, that particular block is brought from. Hey folks, you need to be mute here. You disturb others, right? All right. So if there's a cache miss, then then block is brought from main memory. Okay. It means the cache doesn't have desired block, so fetch it from memory and put it into empty slot. If there's no empty slot, no empty block here available here, then remove one block. Okay, and bring that block in from main memory. So if cache is full, you must discard one valid block and replace it with desired data. All right. Any question? So reading is very simple. Most of the time there will be hit. It means that address is data corresponding to address is available in cache. Just supply the data to data path. That's it. If it is not available, bring it from main memory and then replace a block, and then particular address, whatever data path is asked for, supply it to data path. Simple. Okay, so we'll not go into details of reading. You note that we are looking at it very abstract level. We are not going to detailed design. There's a lot of design. How do we connect, for example, cache to memory? Is it over bus or is it dedicated lines and so on and so forth? Another question you may ask is the data movement from main memory to say L1, for example, is through first L3, then L2, then L1, or parallelly it can be sent to three caches, right? So we right now we are not going into those details. We are simply looking at the data is just a minute, just a minute, huh? Just hold on for a minute. Hello. Yeah, I'm back. Okay, so next is writing into cache. Okay, reading is simple. Writing is little more complex, right? Okay. So, so note that when we say that there are three levels of caches, then L1 has to be subset of L2 has to be subset of L3. Okay, that's what we studied earlier. Okay, so we need to relax this. Okay, little bit we can relax. So let's look at this way. So when we are writing into the cache, so first thing is that we have to see whether that something that we want to read is already there or not. It means that there must be some value of that W in the cache. Okay, it means that that block is available and then we just need to write over that. Okay, so that is already cached earlier. First update the cache location with W. So from when note that we are writing, so data path or CPU will write into that cache location and then same thing is written into lower levels of caches. So there are two approaches, write through and write back. Okay, we'll look at in the next slide. Okay, this is about something we want to write is already there in cache. And second is called write miss. Okay, and there are two approaches. It means that something that we want to write in cache, that location or the block corresponding to that location is not there. Okay, so there are two approaches, write allocate and write no allocate, that we'll study next. So now first let's look at write hit. It means that something we want to write into into memory is already there in cache. Okay, so what we can do is that first method is called write through. So it's simple, right? So we say that all levels of the cache need to be consistent. Okay, so when we're writing into the L1 at the same time, write into the L2 and then write into L3 and then main memory. So something that is being written and it's there in caches, then just write it to all levels simultaneously. Okay, so advantage of that is that all levels are up to date and there is a cache coherence. It means that all levels have same data value corresponding to a memory location. Okay. However, the only disadvantage is that when you write and you have to write at the all levels, including main memory, it means that there is a lot of traffic with every write. Okay. Now note one thing that caches work at faster speed, so writing time to caches is faster, but writing into main memory is slower because main memory is a DRAM, right? So it may take lot of cycle, maybe 100 times more cycles. Okay, so it means that now processor has to wait to write into main memory, right? It's not good. So what we can do is that we can use a write buffer. Okay, and then on buffer, buffer works at clock speed, so you can write it the buffer and then the buffer from buffer data can go to memory. Okay, all right. So buffer updates memory in parallel to processor. So advantage is that it's very fast. So it's something like this. Okay, so you're writing something. This is fast. But writing from cache to main memory is slow, because this main memory is DRAM and is slow. So what we can do is that we can write into, from cache we can write to write buffer, which is fast. Now it means that now the processor is speed up. Okay, and otherwise the processor would have waited until it's written here. Now processor is freed up, and then right from write buffer, it can be written to main memory. Okay, even because this speed is slow, but doesn't matter, because since it's written in buffer, the processor can move ahead. All right. So let's look at the write through cases. Okay, let's look at an example. So there's a write hit. It means that data is available into cache. That's is available in, say, L1 cache. What we show here is main memory. What we show here is cache. We have shown just one level cache here, and then we are accessing a location. Okay, so location happens to be this, and it's available. So tag bit matches and so on. So data, old data is 0303, and same data exists in memory. And the location of memory, the address that is issued by CPU is 10101100. And based on this, of course, we will look at, this index and then this tag bit. So these are the tag bits here. These are the tag bits that is here. So it means that that's hit. It means that the location, some data is available, but we are writing into that location, right? Okay. So after write through, okay, that this location, and we are writing a value 2203, data becomes 2203, and also data in main memory becomes 2203, because we're simultaneously writing down. Okay, any question?
Sir, why is it necessary to update all the levels of cache?
uh, this is because of the design. That's the first way. And there is a cache coherence problem exists, right? It means that all levels of the cache has, it's not so much in a uniprocessor case, but all levels of the cache should not have different data values for same location. Okay, so that's the reason. And secondly, it's very simple. This method is simple. Okay, so that's how some processors use this method, but it requires a lot of, it's actually a lot of traffic generation happens here. Okay, so let's move into the next one. We'll look at the next one. Okay, next is write back. So what happens is that it means that location is available in cache, and then from ALU CPU you write into that location, but don't update lower levels. Okay, so what happens is that you there, if, let's assume if there are multiple writes into that location, this location on top level cache will continue to update, and you do so until this particular block at top level cache is removed for some reason. Okay, maybe some higher priority task comes and this particular location is not, or this particular block is not used for some time. Okay, so it, when it is evicted, then you write it into lower levels. So it means that we are combining multiple writes into same block before eviction. Okay, so but I mean, it's very intelligent scheme is that keep writing in top level. Only when this particular block is removed because of LRU algorithm or something, then you update all the blocks, all the levels below, the level 2, level 3, maybe level 4 and main memory. Okay, but this requires extra bit that is dirty or modified. Okay, when we say dirty, see, there is a possibility that you know there is no updation happened. Okay, and when we are removing that particular block, then we don't need to update lower levels. Only if that particular block is written into, it's dirty or modified, then we need to update lower blocks. But note that here memory and cache are inconsistent. Okay, for some time. Okay, so this is, you know, sometimes in interview you are asked cache coherence. What is cache coherence? You can say that making sure that all levels in cache have the same value. All right, so let's look at this example. On the left side we have cache, on the right side we have main memory. Okay, and this particular index we are looking into, because the address is 10101100. So this is index 100. We look, and then the remaining bits will be tag bits. So this is a tag, and so when LW with this address, whatever is given here, is issued, we look here and there is a match. Okay, but there is something already there, right? Okay, so what we do is that after, and we modify this. Okay, we are modifying it. Okay, so this is a new value, 2203. Okay, note that we have modified only in cache, we have not modified in main memory. So this value is the value here is the old value. Okay, and now after some time this particular block, this block is evicted because of it's not used, or LRU algorithm finds out that it's not used for some time, and some other block is brought into here. Then this will be you know updated. So it will update this into main memory. Okay? And then what will come here is something that new block that is coming here. So keep writing on topmost level of cache. If there are, so there is a locality into the writing, in the write operation is happening frequently. Keep writing until it is evicted, and at the time of eviction, then they write it to all lower levels. Write it to the main memory, not to all levels, right? Because it will be evicted from all levels then. Okay, any question? Is it clear? Okay, now we have write miss cases. So we have studied now write hit. It means that something that we wanted to write is already there, that particular block is already there in memory. Second one is write miss. It means that particular, we want to write a word, and that particular block corresponding the word is not available in cache. So what we can do is, first thing is write allocate, load the corresponding block from next lower level into the cache and update the cache block. It means that it's not there, then go to lower level, it's available, because lower level can have it, right? Because lower layer is bigger than a higher layer. So you bring it from lower layer. If it's a one level of cache, then bring it from main memory and then update it. Okay. All right. So there are certain advantages of this, right? So now we almost always pair it with write back. It means once we have brought in the block to the top level of the cache, from lower levels, then keep writing into it. Okay, if there are multiple writes, do it until this block is evicted. In that case, you write it to main memory. Or all lower levels. All right. Now this is simpler because write misses can be treated same way as read misses, and it exploits the spatial locality of writes. The second is write no allocate. It means that when processor wants to write into main memory, just don't bring it to the cache. In the first case, we have allocated one block, okay, and brought it from main memory that block we have brought it from main memory to the cache, right, and update it. Now here what we are telling is that don't worry, don't use cache at all, you bypass cache and write directly into main memory. And the main memory also has a buffer, you write into buffer and forget it, right? So we can, this is useful when locality of writes is very low. Okay, it means that we are not programming, if you design a special computer or something where locality is not there, locality of write is not there, then you can design this way, and is typically paired with write through. Okay, is it clear?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
In write no allocate,
Mm-hmm.
we pair it with write through, which takes some time to update the value in the entire memory hierarchy, right?
Yeah.
So suppose we write something and immediately use the values in that location. So it will contain the old value. So won't it cause some error?
No, so what we are doing, right? No allocate. It means that we are not bringing the block up, but writing to lower levels. Okay, up to main memory. So we are writing it simultaneously. So what is causing inconsistency? Can you please repeat?
Sir, suppose we write something. So
Uh-huh.
directly writing to main memory will take some more time.
Okay, so
So
yeah, the design has to take care of that all levels are updated consistently. So design has to take care of that. It may have write buffer, for example. Through buffer, you are going to write into buffer, and through buffer, you are going to write into memory. So it may take more time, but design has to take care of that.
yes, sir. But if in that extra time
Mm-hmm.
we use we want to use the value written in that location, but due to the buffer time, the location has the old value. So won't it cause?
But it is there into some level of cache. When again you have to apply algorithm for reading, right? So what happens is that when you are reading and it's not available into top level, okay, because what you are doing is write no allocate is that, but let's assume it's available in second level L2. Okay, then it has to be brought from L2 to L1. So usually the design takes care of these kind of issues. Okay,
Yes, sir.
design has to take care of these issues, right? I mean, there is always that's the reason, one solution is of course use buffer. When memory is slow, let processor not wait, but use buffer and write into buffer, and then it can go into main memory. Okay, yeah, all right. So this is example of write. Oh, okay, this example of write allocation. Okay, so data 2203 is to be stored in a location. Okay, and in location, this location 10101100, and there's a write miss. It means that now valid bit is 0 here. It means that it does not exist. Okay, so what is to be done is that where in main memory this data exists in this location. Okay, so what we can do is that we this is to be returned, so we allocate this block, and then they write this value 2203 here. Okay, and then later, you know, when this block is evicted, this main memory block can be updated. All right, and this is the example of write no allocate. All right, it means that we don't bring it to main memory, sorry, cache memory. So this is the location on which we want to write 2203. Okay, so this location of course exists in main memory, and then it has some other value 0303. Okay, and after write no allocate, this remains as it is. We don't write it here, but I write directly right here. Now assuming there is only one level of cache here. Okay, so we are writing this 2203 directly into the memory. All right, so so what we have studied is that, okay, when we reading is simple, when we write there are two possibilities, that particular location is already available in cache. It means a corresponding block is available. If that is so, then we can when we write into that location, let's say assume it's available in L1, then write it to all levels simultaneously. That's called write through. Okay, second approach is that block is available at top L1, write it only into L1. Don't write into L2, L3 and main memory. Keep writing onto it because there might be multiple writes. And at the end, when this block is removed or to be evicted, then you write it down to lower levels, which is L2, L3 and main memory. Okay. Second is case is that when there is a write miss, it means the block is not there. You allocate the block first, okay, in the cache and write it there. Okay, and this write allocate is paired with write through. It means I keep writing into the block, and when there is sorry okay, so keep writing into it until it's evicted. So it's actually paired with write back. And write not no allocated, don't allocate the block and write it directly to lower levels. Okay, so this was this what we have studied, right? Okay, so please go through this slide. Now when we say that we have to bring in a block from main memory to cache, then and cache is full, then one of the blocks is to be removed or evicted, right? That we have just discussed, right? And then there can be many ways, right? Randomly pick up a block from cache and replace it with something that is to be replaced from main memory, right? Or lower levels of memory. So this is a random method. It's not very efficient method, but very simple to implement. Second is first in, first out. Whatever block has come into the cache first is to be removed first. Okay, again, this is not very efficient method. Okay, because the first block that we have brought in is, if it's in use, then this method does not work out. And third is of course least recently used. Of course, I mean, the one which you need to remove is not in use for a very long time, right? So it's unnecessarily occupying the cache. Okay, but we have to keep history, and right, it requires some extra work, right? So this LRU is implemented as pseudo LRU. Not exactly LRU, but it imitates the behavior of LRU in some way. So the example we have taken here is that we have 64 level fully associative cache. Okay, and hardware replacement. We have a pointer called replacement pointer. Okay, which points to one cache entry. Okay, and whenever access is made to the entry by pointer to, okay, whenever access is made to the entry, the pointer points to next entry. Okay, so suppose pointer is here. Okay, and then if the access is made to this one, then just move the counter to the next one. Otherwise, don't move the counter. It's being if uh, okay, it means that this point now, if you have to evict something, evict the one where the pointer is. So it means that the one which is recently being used will not be evicted. But this does not give you the least recently used exact recently algorithm, but says that is actually almost like not most recently used algorithm. Because most recently used is the one where access is made you and you have moved the pointer to the next. So it surely you are not evicting which has been recently been used. Okay. So this is the way we create pseudo LRU algorithm, and it's being used in many implementations. All right. Another few minutes, we will close then. Okay, we have seen multi-level of caches, right? So, and multi-level of caches, of course, helps because different levels of caches can be of different capacity and also of different technologies, right? So they can work at different speeds. So let's look at how this is organized in ARM architecture. Now, note that ARM is based on RISC architecture. It has same genesis as that of RISC-V that we are studying, right? MIPS, ARM, and RISC-V have the same genesis, right? So you can see similarities. So here you can see that there are 5 stages. Okay, there are 4 stages are shown here. All right. Uh, and then we have level 1 cache. You can see instruction cache, and there is a data cache. This is at level 1. This is level 2 cache. Okay, in the processor, and then level 3 cache will be outside it if it is there. Okay, this is another architecture of ARM8. Now there are various, it's a multi-core architecture obviously, and then you can see that there are 4 modules. Okay, and then there is level 1 cache here. Okay, so each CPU, along with each CPU there is one level 1 cache, and there is a for 2 CPUs there is one level 2 cache, and then it's connected through interconnection fabric to to L3 cache here. Okay, all right, and then we can see in Intel there are it's again multi-core architecture. I am talking about i7 architecture, i7 microprocessor. So there are registers, of course, and then they are connected to, then there is L1 data cache and L1 instruction cache, and they are then connected to unified L2 cache. And then they are in turn all L2 unified cache are connected to L3 unified cache. Note that L2 unified cache is for a core. Okay, For each core has one L2 unified cache, but L3 cache is shared among all cores. Okay, and you can see now you can understand the nomenclature, right? So L1 cache is 8-way cache, access is 4 cycles, L2 is 8-way cache, X is 10 cycles, and so on, right? Now you can understand the nomenclature, right? What it is, and you can question, you can find answers why there are different cycles and so on. All right. Any question? This is another Intel architecture, and we can see that L1 and L2 are associated with one core. Okay. So each core has L1, L2, wherein here also in Intel there is a one. Each core has one L1, L2. So it's a consistent, and L3 is a shared cache here. But you can see the different processors, different structure, right? There are 4 cores are sharing one L3 cache. There's a possibility it could be 2, it could be 8 cores sharing one L3 cache. So totally depend on design. So I just wanted to show you 3 levels of cache, how they can be organized. They can be interconnected. Okay. A few points to discuss. Um, Instruction data caches are accessed in different places in the pipeline, right? Instruction cache we can see is in the beginning, sorry, here, and data cache is placed at the end of the pipeline, right? Okay. Okay. So that's the reason first level caches are always split. When we are using pipelining, then we are splitting it, right? So that operations can be done parallelly. And locations can also be different. What is also important is that the time to communicate data, because there is a propagation time, has to be very short. Okay. In order to take care of this, we have instruction cache and data cache. Okay, but higher level caches are usually unified, right? And we have seen this in the case of L3 is always unified, right? Okay, and here also we can see L3 is unified across multiple cores. Okay, so there is a multiple ways of designing this, but note that first level cache is generally has instruction cache and data cache. Okay, it corresponds to each processor or core. Okay, and then like we see it here, L2 is also generally corresponding to a core, but L2 can be also shared between multiple cores. So in case of Intel, L2 is again is there for each core. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Now let's look into multi-level caching in pipeline design. So first level cache are instruction data cache. Okay. And its decision is very much affected by cycle time, because within a cycle we have to get an instruction and we have to write into the memory, right? Within a cycle, right? Okay, so it has to be very small, because smaller is faster, and it has to be lower associativity, because associativity is higher, very high, then there is a delay because of comparator units, right, and multiplexer units. So that delay is to be avoided. So latency is very critical at first level, because within a clock cycle you have to do all these operations. Okay, and then tag and data store, basically tag values are to be accessed and data values have access. All these things happens in parallel. Second level caches are not so much dependent on fast speed. Okay, or basically we have to balance between hit rate and access latency. Okay, and these are large and highly associative. Latency is not that important, because what happens is that L1 cache hit ratio is usually 95% plus or 90% plus. So only the misses are going to L2. Okay, now we want to reduce further misses. We are not focused so much on reducing or increasing the speed of that, right? So now these memories can be large, and highly associative. Because with associativity, if we increase the associativity, hit ratio becomes higher. Okay, and then generally we have serial access of level. Second level cache is accessed, only first level misses. Okay, so obviously second level cache will not see same access as the first one. All right. Okay, we'll discuss little bit about performance today, and next class we'll go into detail about the performance. First thing is that first parameter is called hit rate. Hit rate is that suppose you have made 100 references to memory, how many of these are available in the cache? Okay, so percentage of memory accesses in program that result into a cache hit. Okay, note that cache is of almost million times smaller than main memory. The hit ratio is 90 to 95%. Okay, always a million times smaller, and you are making access to main memory, and main memory you can access to any location in the address space, but yet hit ratio is 90% plus. Okay, so hit rate is number of hits divided by total number of accesses we have made. Okay, is nothing but 1 minus miss rate. Okay, so miss rate obviously is fraction of memory references that are not found in cache, so it's 1 minus hit rate is usually very low, 3 to 10% for L1. All right, and then third important parameter is the miss penalty. If you miss, if there is a if something you are looking at it's not available in cache, then there is a penalty, right? And then you'll have brought it from lower level. What is that penalty? It may not be there in second level also, L2. Then you have to bring it from L3. It's not there in L3, you have to bring it from main memory, right? So there is a huge penalty in the whole, right? So this factor gives the time it takes to serve or to service a miss. Okay, so additional time is required because of a miss. Okay, it can be almost like 1000 cycles for main memory. All right, any question?
Why is hit rate so high for this?
Why is hit rate? What's the question?
So high? Like why is it like 95%? Because like if it is like 1000 times bigger memory, then like each of the indices in that cache can have like 1000 possibilities of tags.
Why it is 95%, right? You are designing it in such a way that most of the time what you need is available there. Now this totally depends on various factors. What is your cache size? Okay, what is your block size? What are your policies? Okay, and of course what is your program's behavior? Okay, for in general we can say for most of the programs, okay, or some benchmark program, hit ratio is between 90 to 95%. This is the beauty. That's a research problem. How do you create that? How many levels of caches you need? What is going to be cache size? What is going to be technology, different technologies? Okay, what is going to be interconnect bus, right? What is the bandwidth of the bus? All these factors play into the fact that we want very high hit ratio. Okay,
Yes.
is that the question that you asked?
Yes. So there like there is some algorithm or something does that that optimize so that it's very high. Hit rate
So
is
this
very
is
high.
all design problem and is a research problem. There must have been, I guess there must have been more than 30, 40 PhDs on this topic. Okay, and then because the performance of your processor or your computer heavily depends on it, because you can create your pipeline whatever it does beautifully, you can have multi-scalar architecture whatever you design, ultimately your main memory is slow, is almost like 1 million times slow. Then that beauty is that now it has to work at the speed of the clock, because first level, if you look at within a clock cycle, you can read a data instruction and write a data value or read a data value. Now you have to bring it to the clock speed from something that's a million times slower or 10,000 times slower. And then we take advantage of locality of reference. So bring something that is in use. You don't bring everything. You cannot bring, of course, everything to cache, right? You bring something that is in use. How do we do intelligently? What should be the first level cache size? What will be second level cache size? Third level cache size? What should be block structure? And all these things are important. What is replacement policy? How fast is replacement policy? Right? And what is the miss penalty? And how can we reduce the miss penalty? All these factors come into the play. Okay, and based on that, this whole cache memory architecture is optimized, and that's the reason different processors that we use have slight different design, because a lot of R&D goes into it. Okay. Okay, and the next is a hit time. Okay, see, hit is that something is hit. I mean, you look at the reference, some memory locations that's out there in the cache, but how much time you take to read from that, right? Okay, time to deliver a line or block in a cache to processor. So cache processor asking something, and then how much time it takes for cache to deliver that. Okay, now this factor is very important for L1 cache. Okay, all right. So cache has to be properly chosen such that it does not impact the cycle time of the processor, because within a cycle you have to do this, and then if it's going to take a lot of time, then you have to increase the clock cycle time. Okay, so it has to be, its hit time has to be very short. Okay, so hit time of cache is generally a nanosecond, usually 1/4 of a cycle. Okay, so this is a beauty. This is how you have to design L1. Okay, let's stop here because we have another few minutes left out, and then we'll start in the next class from what we will look at some of the behaviors. What are different type of misses due to, say, for example, cold misses when you are booting it up, starting it up, right? Capacity misses means that your working set or something that your program is using frequently is not there in cache. Third is conflict misses. We have seen in direct map cache there are conflict misses or collisions. Okay, and we'll see some of these behaviors, right? Okay, all right, thank you very much. So we'll have a class on Saturday for 2 hours. Is that right? Okay.